Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 12 of Behind Emmy Lines Bet podcast. Today's topic is pretty controversial, I guess, depending on how you look at it. We're going to do basically the quick recap and breakdown of the current road trip that we're on that's given us our West Coast swing. Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Seattle. In our daily topic, we're going to discuss the officiating, which is pretty much on everybody's mind, a hot topic right now. But first, we're going to start up by welcoming Steve, and he's going to take us into the trivia.
Well, it's good to be back for another episode. Truly a pleasure to be on a platform talking Habs hockey with everybody that's tuning in and listening, commenting, and sharing. We do appreciate it. We've had a couple more subscribers, a few more views, so please keep up the trend and let's jump into trivia. So we are going to talk a little bit later about officiating, which then will tie into today's trivia question. Which Montreal Canadiens player holds the single season record, Habs record, not NHL, Habs record for most penalty minutes in a season?
Good
So
question.
we've had a couple of guys that like to throw hands. Which
Mhm.
one did it the most?
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's probably a few candidates that people might suspect for this one. Um, so we're going to
And I'll,
jump
and I'll
right.
just tell, I'll just give one hint. It's not Mats Naslund.
No, no, no. Close though. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
close.
yeah.
So we'll jump right into the road recap that we're currently on. Right now, as of the time of recording this episode, it's Sunday, late Sunday afternoon. Um, so we've had the first three games in our road trip. We've had Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. The Seattle game is Tuesday night, 10:30. Just a heads up for those 12 members of ours that will need to get us to get
Have
their
a
game
nap.
schedule.
Yeah, have a
Um,
nap so you can stay up late.
yeah. So the first game was Wednesday night in Calgary, which we achieved a 2-1 overtime win. The second game was the following night, 6-5 loss against Edmonton. And then last night, we had a 4-3 win against Vancouver. Do you want to start off with your thoughts on the Calgary game?
The Calgary game, I thought we played exceptionally well. We got out pretty good energy throughout the entire game. Calgary came to play, or at least came to hit. I won't say came to play. They are not doing so well in the standings and are trying to find their groove under a new head coach and what their identity is. And we are a team across the league. If you listen to other broadcasters or bloggers or podcasters, we play with a lot of speed. And Calgary tried to neutralize that,
Mhm.
and they hit everything that moved. So we were slowed down at times through our transition game because Calgary was trying to be relentless. We had a lot of good looks. Bull Duke tied a Montreal record, believe it or not, 4 straight road games to start the year with a goal. So he ties Steve Shutt and Cole Caulfield. That was a previous trivia question. And I thought that if it wasn't for the Calgary goaltender, we could have been up by a handful. So
Yeah.
overall, it took it to a little bit we had to play some bonus minutes, but
Mhm.
it seems that we're a bonus minute kind of team. We like to give fans full value for their money. So
Mhm.
you get more minutes played per ticket price if you're a Montreal fan this year than most, but
Mhm.
we squeaked out a win in a hard fought win and a game we justifiably were the better team.
Yeah, and with the Calgary win, the only thing I really kind of noticed they did play, they did play a consistent game. There was no give up, there was no quit on the team. They battled right down to the very end. But I think the thing that stood out to me was the patience of Demidov on that overtime goal, just waiting and waiting and waiting for that cross crease pass to Matheson to bury that. I mean, you got a 19-year-old kid doing things of a 29-year-old veteran, which just astounds me.
And we've seen it through a few games already.
Mhm.
We're 8 games in as of that game, and he's done it more than one time, and I think it's a sign of many years and games to come.
Yeah. Um, the Edmonton game, we're just going to skip the Edmonton game right now because it's going to be big in our daily topic. I'm just going to jump right over to the Vancouver game, which was the 4-3 win. What are your thoughts on that?
4-3 win. We will backtrack at some point, but Dobish returned back to the net. So through 3 games, he's played 2 of the road trip. And again, he made saves when we needed him to in this game. Well, I he's been good all year. He's now 5-0, which is fantastic. But he made the couple of good saves when we needed him to, and you can't ask for more out of a goaltender. Overall, the power play starting to find a groove. I think we were two power play goals against the Canucks. Those are numbers that can be consistent. This is a team that should push in the top 5 or 7 spots for the power play. We have really, if healthy, we have six forwards plus 4D that are offensively minded. So we should be able to truck out two offensively gifted power play lines, mixing and matching based on cohesion and chemistry. And they didn't disappoint. So, we were down, came back, made a run at it, for lack of a better term, held on, not by the skin of our teeth, but held on for a 4-3 win to give us through 3 games a 2-1 record on the road trip.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. And again, I'm gonna go back to the Demidov bandwagon. I know you're just as big a fan as he is. He had a goal and 2 assists in that game, and I believe was the first star of the game. But not just that, but I see the things he does away from the puck. The back checking and the defensive mindedness of him, his awareness of the ice and who's on around him. I just see him exploding into being a true number 1 superstar in the league.
Yeah, Marty has been working hard with him, making sure he plays that 200-foot sheet ice, and
Hmm.
you can see the results early on. I mean,
Hmm.
again, we're the youngest team in the league. Are we playing young? No, we're playing like we're a team that's been around for years, and these guys are genuinely having fun. But Demidov with his first big multi, more than 2 points, a multi-point night, and the kid is full value.
Mhm. And that leads us to the Seattle game. That's not for a couple nights yet, so we don't have any roster updates, nothing like that as of yet. So basically, I think what it boils down to is in a previous episode, we had talked about this road trip. You had said that you were predicting a 3-1 record on the road trip, and I was predicting a 2-2 record. So as you say, one of us is going to be right.
One of us is going to be right. It's going to be me, but one of us is going to be right. But
On the
at
down
least,
low, I hope it's you.
at least through a road trip, a mini road trip, albeit you
Mhm.
don't come out with a losing record.
Mhm.
So you go out, you show well, play well, get rewarded appropriately. So worst case, after Tuesday we split, but if we win, then it's 75% of the points on the road.
Mhm. Which is good because I think if you were to tell any team that you could have a winning record at home and play 500 on the road, they'd be ecstatic with that. And
and
why
that and that
wouldn't you
gets you in the
be?
playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So with that, that's going to take us to the dreaded shit show in Edmonton. Why don't you take that off, Steve, and go ahead
Yeah,
with that?
so you don't like to find excuses. And if you're not a Montreal fan watching this podcast, this is where you're gonna say that, this is just a crybaby scenario, and that's fine. For those that didn't watch it, and are only getting game reports or Sportsnet or TSN or whoever you're watching, ESPN if you pick up through an IPTV source, an American feed, the game started out with one power play to Edmonton. That was their only penalty in the entire game. We then had the next 6 penalties. 5 of them put us down a man, and one 10-minute misconduct. So we were 6 penalties for 20 minutes to Edmonton's one penalty of 2 minutes. Now, unless there's an absolute bloodfest on the ice, and we aren't reminiscing or replaying Slapshot 4, this was a heavily, heavily, heavily favored in the penalty department. Do we want to use the word conspiracy at this point? Does the best player or best two players in the league who play for the other team, do they get the benefit calls or the slightly judgmental calls in their favor? Boy, oh boy, I will go on the record saying somebody owed McDavid something
Mhm.
because the referees were not nice to us this game.
Mhm. Well, if I can just touch on that real quick before I go into my thoughts. Um, I did see on a podcast on a previous, reel and stuff like that that uh some of these guys, and I'm not talking, run of the mill nobodies on their discussions were talking about betting on hockey and how this affects hockey. And I'm not like you, I'm not going to bring up the word conspiracy theory. I'm not going to bring up whatever. But you know what? If somebody has to sit there and ask the question if there's issues with betting where there are points being shaved or whatever the term you want to use it is, if somebody's talking about it, doesn't mean it's true, but it's out there.
Usually, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Mhm,
You know, the Buffalo Sabres have been a dumpster fire. There's been more than smoke there. Like we're going back to another analogy.
mhm,
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
mhm,
I would hate to think that this early in the year in a game 9 of the season that somebody felt the need to influence the game that had control of the outcome.
mhm,
But boy, oh boy, does this ever reek of that exact idea.
mhm,
So I hope, the NHL does some kind of an informal investigation
mhm,
because there's not one broadcaster that I watch on any of the major networks or hockey pundits that didn't think that the Montreal Canadiens were wronged by the nth degree
mhm.
after that game against Edmonton
Yeah, this is in analogies and comparisons to the old-fashioned, WWE Montreal screw job with Bret the
with Bret
Hitman
Hart.
Hart
Yeah.
kind of rearing its ugly head again.
Yeah, yeah. And you hate to think it really comes down to that, but we have opinions. So let's just talk before we get into opinions on really what the game changer was.
Mhm,
The two referees of record in that game were Garrett Rank and Chris Schenkler.
mhm,
Rank has 12 years and 673 games of officiating under his belt, and Schenkler's 10 years, 470 games. So these aren't year one referees.
mhm,
10 plus years. These guys have been around a while. 2014 and 2015, I think, is when they did their first games. So
mhm,
these are, I will call them seasoned veterans. If you do a quick search and I challenge everybody to look up what we talk about. We do get most of this right most of the time.
mhm,
These guys are been around long enough and they're good enough at what they do. They get playoff games.
mhm,
Not every referee in the NHL gets to referee the playoffs every year.
mhm,
It is a merit-based decision by the NHL referees and their association.
mhm,
So naturally, the Kerry Frasers and Andy Van Helmens of years gone by, they were around for a long time and they were good. They got to referee deep into their season as well.
mhm,
So these guys have been around and are proven to at some point be good enough to keep getting games every year.
mhm. Yeah, and I think what I want to clarify is for those of you that don't know, I am actually a hockey referee. I'm not by any means NHL caliber. I've never done OHL, major junior, none of that stuff. Having said that, I have officiated some pretty high-end hockey level skill-wise talents. I've done umpteen, high school provincial championships. I've done OHL prospect tournaments. I've done NHL alumni games. I've officiated there's probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 guys in the NHL right now that I have officiated over the years when they were kids. Uh, a lot of the women's national team, I've officiated them. I've seen my share of games. Not at a level. I'm not claiming. I'm going to throw out the disclaimer there. I'm not by any means the, say it all, know all, high level professional referee. But I'm trying to qualify my statement by saying that I've done enough big games that I understand from the officiating side of the gambit of what happened on that game in Edmonton.
The bottom line is and understand the rules and
Hmm.
part of that is game management
Hmm.
within the game.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when does a referee take control of a game and when do they go overboard or when do they not take control, period.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are listeners and are hockey fans in general, and there's people out here that, yeah, they watch hockey every Saturday night or twice two other nights a week, have never skated, never
Hmm.
played the game before. So their ability to understand part of what we're going to break into may be a little bit more of a microcosm for concern because there is two sides to this.
Yeah.
There's opinion versus fact and reality.
Okay. So I think the easiest way to do this, uh, I think there's three basic calls, three calls that were the ire of everybody's attention. The one against Slavkovsky, Anderson's, and Matheson's. So I think Slav's call was the first one. I think that sort of, pulled the pin out of the grenade. Why don't you take away on the Slavkovsky
Yeah,
one?
it was a boarding call. It was very, very, very generous. I mean, even the broadcasters during the game when that call was made, like they were like, "Are you sure?" Like that was the call. They had to go back and watch it on the replay. Does he make contact? Barely. It definitely wasn't boarding. And if you listen to what guys like Brendan Gallagher said off after the game and talk about the game, the referee apparently
Mhm.
apologizes to Galley and says that it definitely wasn't that call. But you and I have talked about this before. No referees changing their mind after the call's been made. They can't. It's not the NFL. Sorry, there was no flag on the play.
Mhm.
The call was made.
Yeah. So,
So
and on that, if you want to look at uh, as far as a textbook definition of what the call was, um, I'm probably not going to be the popular guy here on this episode, but that was a boarding call. Now, that's not my dispute, isn't the boarding call. My dispute is twofold. Uh, One is the official admitting after because I heard it on seen it on a Caulfield um, interview where they were interviewing Caulfield, and Caulfield said that the ref did admit that, yeah, it was a bad call and he shouldn't have called it. So my problem is twofold. One, as a referee, you should never ever say that. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with the call or not, you might think, for me to do it in men's league, I've done it. I've said, hey guys, I blew that one. I actually had one earlier today. I just refed a bunch of games this morning and I had one earlier today. That's different when you're doing beer league. But when you're at this level of officiating where these guys are professionals and supposed to be the cream of the crop, because these are supposed to be literally the best officials in the world, right? You can't be doing that. And that leads me to believe to my second point. The biggest discussion I have with players over missed calls, because I'm going to tell you right now, any official who says he's never missed a call is a liar, and I hope he never ever puts on the stripes again. But if you go back and look at that play, at the angle in which Slavkovsky went into the end slash corner slash end boards and hit the guy, I agree. He didn't hit him that hard. But part of that rule is the vulnerability of the player. He was in a very vulnerable position. And I'll tell you right now, to me, it looks like Slavkovsky eased up, knew that, hey, I'm running into this guy. He's head first into the boards, and there's a potential for injury. That clicks off all the mandates for what would be considered a boarding penalty. So, like I said, whether you like the call or not, that's what the call is. That's textbook, and it was a boarding. However, if you look at the angle of the official who put his hand up and where Slavkovsky is on the board and Suzuki is standing between him, you tell me how he can see that from the angling of Suzuki's back, because all that official seen was the place that Suzuki's going to autograph his jersey right on the number 14. That's the only thing he saw, and he so much as admitted it. If that's true, if the report is true that he admitted to the players he made a bad call, why the hell are you making that call? Put the whistle in your pocket and keep your fucking mouth shut. Sorry for getting upset, but it just makes it bad for all of us, right?
right,
Like,
and
why
I
are you
think
doing this? You are supposed to be the best. If
right,
you didn't see it, don't call it. That's what's
right,
called a
and
phantom call.
yeah, and that's the other side of this, right? We expect these referees to call everything right and consistent, and we already know that's not the case.
That's why there's video replay.
But what we would like is consistency across the board and
Mhm.
the ability to, hey, I didn't see it. I can't call something I didn't see. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. The game is
yeah,
fast. These guys are big, strong, fast machines.
yeah.
And years ago they had one referee, two linesmen. They realized that it's a lot like work for one guy to get up and down the ice 200
Mhm.
feet. So we'll add a second guy. This guy can handle this zone. This guy can handle this zone.
Mhm.
And we will then get the second official that's higher in the back end of the zone. He can see the neutralized transition penalty stuff that happens where the other guy's caught below the red line,
Mhm.
so the goal line. So it's designed to be better, but the reality is they're not going to get every call right.
Mhm.
It's one
And
that I thought was on the soft side, but again, we have the luxury on TV. And we have the luxury of multiple angles to
mhm.
see that it wasn't that bad,
Mhm.
but like you say, there's, the referees know the rules, they know the impact of the rules, they know how the verbiage of the rules, they know how they have to call it.
Mhm.
And again, from one angle, you're going to call that's a penalty. From another angle, you're going to call it's not a penalty.
Yeah. And getting back to my point about the admitting you're wrong, I would rather, and I listen, this is how I officiate, and I know a lot of people either love me or hate me. There's no in between. But when you're officiating, to me, in my opinion, you are better off to say, hey guys, I might have missed one. I'm sorry, but I didn't see it. Because 100% of the time, the players are going to say, they get it. Yeah, okay, you didn't see it, whatever. And then I'll usually say, "Look, I'm sorry I missed it. I'll watch for it next time." That's the best you can do. But to make a
Right.
call that you're not sure about and then admit you blew it after, as far as I'm concerned, you've just lost all credibility with because who in their right mind is going to go to that official now when he makes a call and say, "Hey, did you make that one up too?" You're setting yourself up for failure as
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And again, for those of you at home, you're only going to have multiple angles. If
Mhm.
you're in the building, you only see it if you're looking at that
Mhm.
direct part of the play. So,
Yeah.
and for the referee's angle, he might not have seen it, might not have seen it as clearly as he wanted, but he made the clear call and it put us down a man.
Yeah. I
So
think that
before we get into the bigger one, I'll let you start off with the Mike Matheson call.
okay. So the Matheson call to me, I'm probably going to agree with everybody on this one. I watched a podcast where and it was an Edmonton fan podcast, and they're entitled to their opinion, but they're also entitled to be wrong too. Because he said, "Oh, how do you not call that? That's a typical call. His stick was down between his legs." Well, first of all, his stick was not between his legs. McDavid had the puck. Matheson had his ice. One of the things we look for as officials is, do you have your spot on the ice? Did you interfere with that player's progression? Did you do anything to impede his movement? Well, McDavid has the puck, so that sort of takes a bunch of those questions out of the way. If you are the person with the puck, the defending team has the right to remove you from that puck, as they say, right? He didn't hook him, which is a penalty with or without the puck. He didn't trip him because he had his stick held horizontal out in front of him. And depending on, which team you're a fan of or how you want to look at it, McDavid skated into Matheson. Matheson was there, stood his ground, and Matheson had his stick out in front, held horizontally, and McDavid went into him. And as a consequence of that, McDavid sort of tried to shift to his right to get around him, but really didn't shift around far enough and fell down. I have two problems with that. One, where's the hook? Where's the interference? Uh, and McDavid had the puck, so there's all kinds of issues with that. Uh, my biggest pet peeve with that is you literally have, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to look right into the can. You literally have the greatest skater in the world, the fastest skater, best on his feet, and he goes down that easy. That's a dive as far as I'm concerned.
And I don't disagree. I mean, that's what we'll agree on of the three, we'll agree on this one the most, probably.
Mhm.
Again, McDavid is strong on his skates. The guy skates a million miles an hour. I don't even know if he blinks while he's skating because he's going so fast. And his
Yeah.
blade work is impeccable. I mean, he can stop on a dime and twist and turn. And
Mhm.
if he wasn't an ice hockey player, damn, he could be a good figure skater.
Yeah.
Because he can move. He understands what that thin little piece of metal at the bottom of a
Mhm.
molded boot can do, and he can manipulate it. And to go down that easy, it's like you say. And we're not talking Arbor Jack guy pounding him down. We're talking about Mike Matheson.
Mhm.
He has a trouble beating people up. I don't even think he beats himself off out of a wet paper bag to be that aggressive.
Mhm.
Yet here he is knocking over McDavid that easily. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
In my opinion, that if you're going to call, and we've seen it called before, if you're going to call a hook, a trip, or whatever, you got to call a dive.
yeah. So, which leads us back to a couple other things. One, to me, it looked more like McDavid toe picked more than anything. I think his progression carried him forward. I think he lost his momentum, and to me, it looked like he just toe picked and went down. I mean, we see players do it all the time. I see players do it, and there's not another player within 20 feet of them. It happens, right? But this can lead me back to my first call. I'd be curious to know which official made the call, if it was the same one who made the Slavkovsky call, because if he's now admitting he made a mistake, this leads me back to my point credibility. How can you say, you know, that Matheson, I'm not even sure, was it a tripping call? I think is believe what they
Yeah,
called, wasn't it? Right. So, I
I
mean,
believe so.
there's nothing there that leads me to believe that if you were going to call anything, one, it should have been an interference, not a trip. But again, I'm just a hack referee compared to these guys, but it just makes me question, especially if it was the same guy and his phantom calls, he admitted he made a mistake, see where his credibility issue comes in now, right?
Right, right. Okay, so let's go to call number three.
Mhm,
This was probably the call that broke the straw that broke the camel's back.
mhm,
So we get called. We're Montreal's leading the game 5-3. A penalty is called to make it 5-4. Out of frustration during the penalty kill, Edmonton scores. Anderson gets possession of the puck and I won't say fires it down the ice, but shoots the puck down the ice.
mhm,
After the goal is scored, the referee gives Josh Anderson a 2-minute minor for unsportsmanlike conduct. Sends him to the box. That ends up tying the game. So we go from having all the momentum being down 3-1 and scoring four unanswered goals to come back to make it 5-3,
mhm,
then back-to-back penalties, and we're tied at 5-5.
mhm,
So we will have two different schools of thought here. I disagree on the call, personally. I know that NHL referees have to take control of the game. I know that they can't let the inmates run the asylum, but this wasn't anything towards any player. It wasn't that a Montreal player slighted another Edmonton player to give them an advantage during play. This is something that happened after the whistle, not to any Edmonton player, to a player out of frustration. In my opinion, the referee could have gave him a 10-minute misconduct and removed him from the game.
mhm,
It did not have to be a penalized play because it wasn't towards an Edmonton player. So, that being said, would that have changed the outcome of the game? Possibly. I mean, we were back on our heels. I just think that a referee made it a bigger, in my opinion, made that a bigger thing towards him, and he was going to show Anderson up.
mhm.
Now what we don't get is what was a comment made? Was there a comment directly made at that time as he was doing this, or did the referee just see that this happened out of the blind side and he called that penalty?
Mhm. Yeah, so I have a few concerns on that one. One, when you fire that puck down, a lot of people don't understand how annoying and aggravating that is. So I understand him making the call because, again, I tell players all the time when I'm reffing, I'm a guy, listen, Steve, you know me better than just about anybody else. You know I'm pretty free and loose with the salty language and I can give it just as well as I can take it. When I'm officiating, I tell players all the time, if you don't agree with my call, that's fine. I'll come, let's go stand in the corner where nobody can hear us, or we'll go down on the end of the bench where nobody can hear us, and you can call me every name in the book and tell me whatever you want. I don't care. I said, but I'm probably going to give it back to you, depending. Um, but the minute you start doing stuff, for instance, yelling across the ice, trying to put me in a spot and show me up, firing the puck down the ice, I think the official was more pissed off at the banging of the stick. And again, we don't know what was said. I mean, there's a various anything from you suck to outright, four-letter words, combinations thereof put together. Anybody knows. I've heard it all. I've heard, listen, if the DEI crew ever got out and heard some of the things that these hockey players say, they would just be absolutely flabbergasted. I've heard it all. So again, without knowing what was said, without putting into context, um, him firing the puck down. Um, there's so many variables. So if you look at it strictly from the black and white rule book, it's 100% absolutely is a penalty. Again, should he have called it? I don't know. I can't say because one, I'm not there. But as far as the rules go, it's absolutely 100% a penalty. It is a penalized situation. Um,
That I'm not disagreeing with that.
yeah.
Like I said,
But
I believe it's a penalty.
here's where my opinion's going to get unpopular again. When you're handing out misconduct penalties, you have to climb up the ladder. You can't. You know what I mean? If you want to get up to the first floor of your house, you can't step on the fifth rung and you're up there. You have to climb the ladder. That ladder, unfortunately, starts with a 2 minute misconduct penalty for unsportsmanlike misconduct, right? You can't go directly to a 10. Now, whether people like that or not, people understand it or not, that does a couple things. One, NHL rule book, start with a 2, go to a 10. I mean, there might be a scenario in there that I'm unaware of where you can go to a 10, but I think you have to go to the 2 first. And if somebody is on here that knows or whatever, I'm sure I'll get inundated with the rule. Somebody will find the rule and comment that, oh, yeah, you can go to the 10. However, having said that, referees do it for another reason. One, they want to put the onus on the player who did it and make him sit, and then they want to put the onus back on the coach to get your players under control because you can't have players uh, going off on their own tangents, doing things or whatever. Because I'll guarantee you, nothing will ever be admitted in public. But Anderson got torn a strip after for that from the coaching staff, and he didn't. If he didn't, the coaching staff is failing at their job because St. Louis needs to get him under control and say, stop that foolishness, because that does another problem down the road is referees are humans, and whether people like it or not, they remember that stuff. Referees are like elephants when it comes to certain things, and they will never admit it. They will never say, but it happens. They will. I'm going to tell you right now. Him firing that puck down, the linesmen will remember that too because now they got to go get it. They got to whatever, and these
Heaven
guys are
forbid the
supposed to be
millions they make
professionals.
to
I
go get
get
a
it,
puck.
but huh?
Heaven forbid the millions these referees make to go get a puck.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get out the wambulance. You're not gonna get
yeah, yeah,
any sympathy from me. I don't care how many stripes you got on.
yeah. Now, having said that, on the other side of the coin, like you say, these guys are making, the lowest linesman in the NHL still makes about two or $300,000 a year. Um, so they got to have a thicker skin. These are professional hockey players playing at a professional cream of the crop. This is the best league in the world with the best players in the world, supposedly the best officials in the world. Are they perfect? No. Are they going to make mistakes? No. Should they have to tolerate that type of behavior? No. However, you probably should figure it out. It's referees in the NHL are like cops who are afraid to do their job. If you're a cop and you're afraid of getting killed, go find another job, right?
Yeah,
It's terrible. If you're an official and you can't take a player telling you you're an idiot, a jerk, an asshole, or you missed a call, it's probably not the right profession for you.
agreed. And again, there's levels of things we have to look at. And at the end of the day, it comes down to it's a heat of the moment thing.
Mhm.
Anderson probably pissed. That other penalty led to a goal. They were, I won't say in control of the game. You're never in control of the game when 97 and 29 for the Oilers are on the ice. So,
Mhm.
and when they're down, they play a lot of minutes. Which again, you as an opposing player know that you have to represent
Mhm.
the logo on the front, not the name on the back, while
Mhm.
you're out there for 60 minutes. And the heat of the moment got the best of him. He made a decision. I'm sure he regretted as soon as he did it.
Mhm.
Did he regret it because he did it? Did he regret it because he got caught? Or did he regret it because he got caught and it cost him?
Yeah.
That's probably the bigger thing.
Yeah.
But, it was an unfortunate thing which let the Oilers back in and
Mhm.
subsequently a late goal
Mhm.
buried us on a night where I think we deserved a much better fate.
Yeah. So I think we pretty much covered the three calls in question. Do you have any final thoughts on the issue before we get
Well,
on to our trivia?
like most Hab fans, I'll give a shout out to Andrew Shaw here. I
Yeah,
left feeling exactly that same frustration after the game.
yeah,
Andrew Shaw, I don't know why he's that upset. He spent a lot of time in that box. Maybe
yeah.
not that particular one, but
Mhm.
he definitely wasn't a stranger there. But I just felt that we were owed better.
Mhm.
Now what are the repercussions of this? Is the NHL going to dive in and investigate these referees? I'm sure to some degree they do. I'm sure somebody takes not every game, but games where maybe the officiating could be questioned.
Mhm.
I'm sure the NHL is going to look at it, go back through it. There might be a phone call. They're not getting suspended. So if you're watching this and you think, yeah, this is right, nothing's going to happen. There's going to be no public apology from the NHL. There's nothing going to be from the NFL, NHL Referees Association. There's not going to be anything that says, sorry, guys, we owe you one.
Yeah,
My bad. My bad, boys. Thanks. It's not going to happen. But it's a lesson that as a franchise and as a team we have to learn from. We we can't put ourselves in this position out of frustration. That's
Mhm.
part of the game.
Yeah. Well, I just want to sum it up by saying, first off, referees do not see everything. You got to remember, forget the fact that in essence, as far as calling penalties go, you have two officials watching 10 skaters and two goalies on the ice at all the times, and they're going back and forth at breakneck speeds. Um, and yes, they're NHL officials. They're better at it, and they're supposed to see it, but they don't. I mean, they're human. They make mistakes. It's it's how you consolidate, or it's how you resolve that mistake, or how many mistakes you make that I have a concern with. Um, Especially when you get into them scrambles in front of the net. You've got eight skaters jamming at pucks, jamming at each other. There are so many calls missed there that if you sit and watch a game, you'd be surprised. Well, why didn't they call that? Or how did they miss that? Or whatever. It's like the old John Cena thing. This is what you
You
got going
can't
on in
see
front of you
me.
with
Yeah.
skaters. You can't see me, right? So, which is, again, the Slavkovsky call with Suzuki in front of him. To me, there's no way he saw that. But that's another thing. Having said that, what do you expect for resolution from the league? You're 100% right. The league is never going to come out and say, "Oh, hey, sorry, we'll take a mulligan, Habs guys. Our officials blew that one." No, the league knows they blew it. They'll never admit it, but those referees are going to know it because they do have for lack of a better term, a disciplinary process. What they do is they have a video review session where they go over the calls and they'll say, "Hey, what did you see here?" Because the officials get the chance to tell their side of the story. It's not like, everybody unilaterally agrees they're wrong. That's it. It's over. So the officials will get to tell their side of the story. They'll have video review sessions. They'll have calls and they'll have a chance to, discuss it and hash it out. And then at some point, the league is going to make a decision and say, you know, we agree this was a very poorly officiated game, or we 100% support our officials. We don't think they made any mistakes. The result of that, nobody will ever know. The league will never ever come out and say that's all done behind closed doors. And whether you like it or not, it has to be done that way because you can't have every call, every game questioned. And if the minute the league comes out and says, hey, this referee blew it, you've just lost the support. The referees lost the support of the league, and you watch shit go downhill fast after that. And
Yeah,
this I can
we
tell
won't
you,
we won't have any
that's a
referees.
100% guarantee thing.
Yeah,
Um,
we won't have referees, and that's it. And
yeah,
folks, this is at every level of sport.
yeah,
Period.
yeah,
Without referees, we don't have. We'll have more disorganized chaos. Forget organized chaos,
mhm,
and at that point, it hurts the product and it puts the safety of others. So I understand they have a tough job to do.
mhm,
It's a job that, if I was given the situation, I would have loved to have done. If you can't play, I'd love to referee. However, that's not where we're at today.
mhm.
And again, we can beat this back and forth, and you can give me a 2-minute minor for unsportsmanlike conduct for my opinion on this. And throw me out of the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a possibility as well.
Maybe you'll
But
sit the next one out.
yeah, 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 maybe. This face made for radio, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, the referees, like you said, there's clusters of players. They could be in groups of one, two. There could be 8 different things going on at the same time, and there's only 4 of them.
mhm,
And as much as you want these guys to be paying attention to the breakneck speed of the instant play or where the puck is, things are going to get missed. And opinions are going to differ, and
mhm,
interpretation of rules are going to differ. So, the
mhm.
end of the day, over and done with. We gave away the game. Personally, I think we gave it away. We were in control of it. We let emotion cost us 2 points. We rebounded, went into Vancouver and won. So let's just
Mhm.
consider a learning experience and move on.
Yeah. And one last thing that I didn't get to mention about the officials. Um, you got to remember, so when they go through this reconciliation process of video review and stuff like that, some people don't understand, maybe don't know. There are consequences for these officials. One, if they get enough reviews, enough questionable things from the league, like you said, the league's never going to come out and say, "Yeah, you guys blew it," and they're never going to call Montreal and say, "Yeah, our guys blew it." But these guys are going to miss assignments. They don't get scheduled for certain amounts of games. They get maybe the lower profile games because they work on a loop, right? So these guys will
Yep.
work that loop, and that's their Northwestern pretty much is their region. They'll do other ones, but they're basically in their loop, and they'll miss out on games, and they won't get rewarded with playoffs and Stanley Cup finals and things like that. I happen to know. A pretty good friend of mine, Derek Amal, who is a longtime linesman in the NHL. I mean, he was cream of the crop, top of his game. He pretty much retired because of broken fingers, but he could have been a lot longer. He did Olympics, he did World Cup, stuff like that, because he got rewarded for being good at what he does, and player and officials that are lacking, I guess you would say, don't get those rewards. So there is
Right.
consequences for these guys, and these guys are trying to do the best they can because they want to do the playoffs, they want to do the Stanley Cup finals, they want to do Olympics and things like that. So I would just tell the average fan, uh, without being disrespectful, you know, you don't know the rules as in depth as a lot of these guys do, and you have the luxury of video replay where these guys don't. So I would just say maybe, do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of research, and maybe get, look, you might look at it a little bit different then. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I'm just trying to put it into perspective. That's all I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah. On that note, tied into our topic was our trivia question. Uh, what do we got, Steve?
So we have to go back. It seems like we're digging deep into some of these, and we have to go through a lot of game sheets to tabulate these minutes. Chris Nyland,
Hmm.
Knuckles Nyland, had 358 penalty minutes. That's averaging more than 4 penalty minutes a game in the 1984-85 season. So,
Yeah.
we know Knuckles.
Yeah.
We love him. If you ever follow him on any of his podcast stuff, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think he had a permanent seat. I think it
Yeah.
was, I think they gave him the penalty box seat when he retired. I mean, he
He did
spent a
when
lot
they
of time
when
there.
they took out the forum. He got the bench. My understanding is he got the bench out of the penalty box in the
Yeah,
forum
yeah.
when they took that down.
So
Um,
love Knuckles. God bless him. Did a lot of fortuitous fighting for us, and kept us protected. Let's say
yeah.
that.
And just as a side note, somebody might sit down and think, you know, that's the most penalty minutes for a Hab in one season. Um, but I think people might be surprised in the entirety of the NHL for one player in a single season of penalty minutes, that actually ranks 19th out of all. So he's the most by a Hab, but only 19th in the NHL. So there are a lot of guys chucking hands back in the day.
There was, and I know who holds the record. Dave Schultz from the Broad Street Bullies,
Dave the
Philadelphia
Hammer.
Flyers,
Yeah.
the Hammer. So drop your guess in the comments if you're watching this without using Google. It's considerably more than 358.
Yeah. On that note, we just want to say thanks for tuning in for another episode of Behind Enemy Lines podcast. Thanks for your support. I think we're up to 12 subscribers now. Our next goal is we're going to shoot for 20. So please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, send us your thoughts, send us some ideas of what you might have on potential episode topics or things you'd like to hear us talk about. So thanks again for watching.
And as always, I'd say keep your stick on the ice, but that might cost you 2 minutes in the sin bin.